Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome. You are tuned into Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, NBC News Radio, AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, Amazon Music, Audible, and more, because I want to be able to reach as many people as possible and splatter them with more hope and happiness, because I am on a Happy 88 mission. That's 88 million more happy people in the next 8 years. I'm your host and producer, Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. I was actually introduced to Oprah as the Asian Oprah, that honorable moniker, by Michael Bernard Beckwith, my big brother, also known as, who's the founder of Agape International Spiritual Center, and also the forward writer of this best-selling book called 8 Ways to Happiness from Wherever You Are. And I wanted to start the program today to let you know that I'm actually giving away, today's Asian Oprah giveaway is a signed copy of this book, which I usually don't give away because I get to give part proceeds to Habitat for Humanity, and I want to save on mailing costs, but I usually give the audiobook away. But because it is the holiday season, this is my favorite month, Thanksgiving, and I'm giving thanks. So the first person to go to, let's make this interesting, to follow me on Instagram, Doc Balance, DOC Balance, and message me there, will get for the holidays a signed copy of this book. However, if you would like my Happy 88 meal, which is a value meal just for the holidays, take a listen and I'll let you know how to get it. Happy 88 meal means that it's an $88 value pack of the audiobook copy of 8 Ways to Happiness, plus the download of my children's book, Mommy, What Are Feelings? And it's coloring book that your kids can draw their feelings, and it rhymes. The pictures were done by my daughters when they were 6, and they're so grown up, 4 and 6. So you get that, as well as the 21-day fast from complaining, which is a great good life habit to kickstart this holiday season with less complaining, more smiling, better relationships, and simply feeling better. As well, you get a download of my Balanced Tai Chi Gong, which is a moving meditation for those who maybe find traditional yoga a little challenging because of the joints. As well, if you find sitting still and meditating challenging as well, then this is the perfect solution for you. It is a cross between Tai Chi, Qigong, and a little bit of Dr. Marissa's Take My Advice. I'm not using it, some balance coaching. And then finally, part of the value pack to make it $88 is some of my original music. Some of you know I put prayer and put music underneath it. So one of the songs that's included is the Serenity Prayer. God grant me the serenity. So if you want that and other songs, go to my website, drmarissa.life. Put $28 down. That goes to my nonprofit, 8 Ways to Happiness, which helps kids, teens, and young adults who have temporarily forgotten their birthright to happiness. So it's a win-win. $28, you get $88 worth of stuff. It's a great holiday gift. You can break it up or give it to one person, and you'll be on their nice list instead of the naughty list. All right. And today is November 18th. What is special about today? Well, fans of Disneyland, it is Mickey Mouse's birthday today. So you can sing happy birthday. Happy birthday, dear Mickey Mouse. Thanks for all the smiles you give the kids. And here's some little known facts about Mickey Mouse. His character got the start on film November 18th, 1928. But before that, the story begins in 1927 when Walt Disney first sketched a floppy-eared bunny while under contract to Universal Studios. That rabbit named Oswald changed to a mouse named Mortimer, and eventually the squeaky-voiced rodent was dubbed Mickey, and that's how Mickey Mouse was born. I didn't know that. And within a year, the first Mickey Mouse Club popped up in Salem, Oregon, and it was a fundraiser for the Salvation Army. Isn't that cool? So, happy birthday, Mickey Mouse. It is also National Princess Day. So if you think you're a princess and act like one, celebrate. It is also World Pancreatic Cancer Day. The world turns purple in support of improved treatment, screenings, and research for World Pancreatic Cancer Day. The unfortunate truth is, pancreatic cancer has the lowest survival rate of all different types of cancer. Only 3 to 5% of those diagnosed survive for up to 5 years. I didn't know that. Survival rates for most other cancers have gone up over the last 40 years, but not this particular one. That's why it's important to get yourself checked and learn the risk factors. So if you have any of the following symptoms, abdominal pain or back pain, unexplained weight loss, jaundice, loss of appetite, nausea, pancreatitis, stool changes, recent onset diabetes, go get it checked. Early diagnosis is so important for this kind of cancer. So we take advantage of World Pancreatic Cancer Day and become more aware of all the symptoms that I just read off. So wear purple today. And if someone asks you why, you can tell them you heard it here, that it is World Pancreatic Cancer Day, and we are doing our best to early detection, more research, understanding, and healing. And finally, it is National Vichyssoise Day. I have no idea if I said that correctly. That's my Deliciousness of Life entry. It's a cold soup loved by many. The man most credited with the reinvention of the soup is French chef Louis Diat. Back in 1950, New Yorker magazine interviewed him, who was the chef at the Ritz-Carlton in New York. And he said, a childhood soup his mom and grandma used to make, potato and leek. And during the summer, my older brother and I used to cool it off by pouring in cold milk. And how delicious it was. And that is to celebrate the deliciousness of life. So you have my permission to go and find some Vichyssoise to enjoy. But in case you can't find it, I thought we would celebrate the deliciousness of life today with a spotlight interview with a friend of mine. Jennifer's the international best-selling author of Piece of Cake, The Secret to an Anti-Inflammatory Diet. She survived a near-death experience due to an autoimmune condition and is healing through upholding an anti-inflammatory living. So she's on a mission to help other people do the same. I was delighted to have her on my show. I actually met her in Nashville, Tennessee. We were both there. Our books are published by the same publisher, Morgan James. We had a book celebration and some awards and medals, and it was a wonderful launch. And we got to hang out and play downtown Nashville. It was my first time, and became friends. And so, of course, I had her on the show because I love the fact that it is something we can control. We may not control the medical issues that we have, but there are things that we can do about them. So the deliciousness of life today is my spotlight interview with Jennifer Carr. We'll be right back with more on Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It, Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, the station that leaves no listener behind.
Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And we're back. You're tuned in to Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It, Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on NBC News Radio, CNBC News Radio, KCAA, AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere, kcaaradio.com. And if you want to watch and listen, go to my YouTube channel, free subscribe, and you'll get an alert at 8 a.m. weekday mornings to tell you that there's a new show on its way. And you'll also be able to see my new short film, PPP, Post-Pandemic Possibilities, as well as my red carpet playlist with fabulous actors, musicians. I have Melissa Etheridge on the carpet. I have gold medal Olympians, gymnasts, you name it. Halle Berry, John Travolta, and Quincy Jones, of course. So you can enjoy that there. And as promised, today's spotlight interview, celebrating the deliciousness of life and taking care of your health at the same time. Jennifer Carr with a piece of cake and anti-inflammatory yummy food choices. Enjoy.
And now, do you remember the pictures? And a lot of you were very kind with your likes and your comments on my performances in Nashville, Tennessee, at the, Nash Vegas on the Broadway street down there where the lights don't go down, just like Vegas, my first time there. And I met a fabulous co-creative soul there, and she's also a Morgan James author, and so she was my videographer who recorded Summertime and Karaoke, and then my little performance at the Hilton before they shut us down at the Grand Piano. But I wanted to bring her on because not only is she a fabulous person, she's a speaker. Jenny Carr is leading inflammation expert and the international best-selling author of Piece of Cake, This Kind of Peace, The Secret to an Anti-Inflammatory Diet. She survived a near-death experience due to an autoimmune condition, is healing through upholding anti-inflammatory living. Jenny's on a mission to help others do the same, whether it's recovering from an autoimmune disease, reversing chronic physical disorders, or easing behavioral and emotional conditions. Jenny specializes in helping people reverse these chronic symptoms by adopting and maintaining anti-inflammatory eating without feeling deprived or overwhelmed. Think cupcakes, pizza, bread, and muffins the anti-inflammatory way. She offers VIP coaching as well as online courses. Jenny's been featured by the Food Babe, Dr. Mark Hyman, U.S. News & World Report, Armin Resorts, Mind Body Green, and Well Plus Good, and now on the Asian Oprah Show. So welcome, without further ado, Jenny Carr. Hey, darling.
So happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And you're zooming in from?
Jackson Hole, Wyoming.
Yeah, Wyoming. I think you're my first guest from Wyoming. I don't think I've been there. We'll have to plan a book signing there so I get to visit. Absolutely. And so inflammation and good food. So first of all, do you have the statistic of how many people are suffering from inflammation? Because I meant to get that. I know it's a lot.
It's over 50% of our nation suffers from chronic health conditions. And that is really the trick around inflammation. If you have chronic inflammation, it shows up as a chronic symptom, whether it is chronic anxiety, depression, mental, emotional condition, behavioral through ADD, ADHD, sensory, or just chronic symptoms like pain, aggressive disorders, etc.
Wow. 50%. Because I do know that, they used to say, someone with cancer, but I can say safely that someone who's got some kind of autoimmune disorder or some suffering from chronic pain. And no wonder it's 1 in 2. I did not realize it was that prevalent. So take me back, because your intro, and we spoke a little yesterday, you yourself know this because you've gone through it. What happened?
It's really interesting. I always say our children are our greatest teachers. Mm-hmm. And when my son was born, he was very sick the first year of his life. We ended up in and out of the hospitals for weeks, even months at a time. He ended up in ICU. It was really scary.
Uh-oh. I lost her.
What was going on?
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. We had a little blip for some reason, but it's because I stole a picture of this whole setup. I was going to send it to you. So your son, okay. And how old was he?
He started getting really sick around the age of 3, like chronic ear infections, inflamed adenoids, and chronic inflamed tonsils. He had abscesses in his throat. I mean, everything you can imagine that had to do with his respiratory and breathing, a key essential component to living, was compromised. And so I knew nothing about inflammation at the time. I had been an athlete my whole life and was considered myself healthy, but certainly didn't follow anti-inflammatory eating. Mm-hmm. I thought I gave my son really healthy food, like all the organic kid food that is really organic junk food.
Yep.
And he, long story short, he came out of the hospital about when he was around 1.5 years. He had been in and out for months, and he ended up with a severe sensory condition, Marissa. It was so bad that a drop of water would land on his shirt, and he would scream, and he'd say, "Mama, Mama, it hurts," and he'd want to tear off his shirt. He struggled with his attention, ability to focus in class with transitions, being able to communicate with the friends. Sensory condition affects kids on a wide spectrum. And so I had decided, my mom had Lyme disease and she had adopted anti-inflammatory eating. And through all the stress of being in and out of hospitals, I was feeling tired. I got on antidepressant meds, which was so not me because I love life, but I was feeling really down, hormonal imbalance, a lot of stuff happening. So my mom and I both tried this anti-inflammatory eating and our symptoms melted away.
Wow.
We felt good. It was incredible. And I thought, if we can feel this good, let's see what will happen if I could devote 2 weeks to my son, prepare all of his food, and just see. Let's just do a science experiment. I'm all about science experiments. Within 2 weeks, his condition drastically improved. And within 2 months, his sensory condition was 85% better.
Wow.
85% better.
Wow.
And so my mission was, okay, I now have this 2-year-old, this little boy who I know absolutely thrives when following this diet. I don't want him to have issues with food or be like, I'm on a diet my whole life.
Right.
I want him to feel comfortable. I want him to thrive. I want him to feel like he has a sense of belonging when it comes to celebrations and everything.
Sure.
How do I make it happen? And by the way, I taught middle school for 10 years. I was a teacher. I was working crazy hours. How do I, as a mom, do it without feeling overwhelmed? And that really became my mission.
Got it. So
you've
lived
how our kids become our teacher and led me into later down the path saving my life, because I did have an autoimmune condition. I had 4 strains of Lyme, and parasite infection so severe it put holes through my organs, ate away my endocrine glands. I was bedridden for 2 years and really within like 1% of not living. I was just walking a fine line. And the neurotoxins that are released by the parasites in Lyme were so severe. And because the holes were in my organs were structurally compromised, I was starting to go into organ failure.
Wow.
So had it not been my way of already maintaining anti-inflammatory eating and an anti-inflammatory lifestyle, I wouldn't be here to.
Wow. So wow. So I'm like, where do I start? Okay, let's go back. Let's go back to your son. And so, and I'm saying this for any mom who is currently having similar kinds of issues or opportunities for improvement is what I call them. I don't call them problems. So what was the specific diet change? So you said you devoted 2 weeks. So what was the before? So what was he eating regularly?
Right.
So, and we may not want to use brand names, but just sort of like your average whatever. And then what did you switch it to?
Yeah. So I was doing things like organic, mac and cheese, organic granola bars, string cheese, organic yogurts, a lot of, and then of course, like some like cookies, all of it was like the organic, quote unquote, healthy foods. And a lot of the typical kid foods that you might put in a lunchbox, maybe have some cereal for breakfast, or frozen waffles. But those were kind of the foods that he would eat on a pretty regular basis. And what I found is a few things. The top inflammatory foods, there's 6 of them, 5 that pertain to kids, right? So the top inflammatory foods are processed sugar, which is number 1 and tied with alcohol. Luckily, we don't have to worry about alcohol for kids, right? Or young kids.
Yeah.
So processed sugar, wheat, cow dairy.
Okay, hold on. I don't know. Hold on one second. Is there a way we can fix that sound?
I'll work on it.
Because it's going in and out in the wows. So, because this is like key right here. So I don't want to lose it. So 1 is processed sugar. 2 is wheat. Okay. 3.
Number 3 is cow dairy.
Number
4 is inflammatory oils like canola oil or seed oils that have been heated. If they've been heated, they become inflammatory.
Like sunflower oil? Okay.
Yeah, if it's been heated, yes.
So vegetable oil? No.
Vegetable oil, yes. That's
yes? Wow.
Yes.
Vegetable oil, peanut oil, sesame oil. Okay.
Sesame oil, like if it's not heated, sesame oil is okay. But the big ones that we want to look for are canola oil, corn oil, soy oil. Those are the common ones you'll find.
Olive oil?
Extra virgin olive oil is great.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, oil. Next.
Yeah.
Is that 5? I lost
5
count.
is GMOs, genetically modified foods.
Okay. So which is a hot topic. So, so those are the 5 culprits in inadvertently contributing to poor health or inflammation. Let's just say inflammation, which then leads to chronic pain and all kinds of other symptoms. Okay, so basically that sounds like everything we all eat. Okay, so now now the solution.
And isn't she delightful? We'll be back with more of her information that will definitely help anyone that is having issues with inflammatory chronic conditions. Or if you're just not feeling good, you might want to play with your food. I know I said you can play with your food. Here on Take My Advice, I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show on KCAA, the station that leaves no listener behind.
back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And we're back. You're tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on NBC News Radio, KCAA, AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. This wonderful number one station, News Talk, KCAA, and also this number one talk news show with me at 8 a.m. I'm so grateful that y'all have made me the number one 8 a.m. show in the Inland Empire and only number 2 to Bill Handel in Southern California. So we'll continue our trek and breathe up his neck to get those numbers up. Thank you so much for continuing to listen after the fabulous Stephanie Miller that precedes my show. So stay here. And as promised, I'm going to continue with the spotlight interview with more really important, valuable information on how you can control your inflammation condition. I know that I'm a little more inflamed. My joints definitely are more inflamed than they were several decades ago, but I'm ageless. I'm not telling you how many. But I recently had my second hip replaced. So now I have 2 hips that don't lie. I'm the bionic hip hooray. And so I follow her advice on some foods that might make my joints hurt more or hurt less. So enjoy.
So what do you use that is not in that category?
So what my book is about is swapping out these top 6 inflammatory foods for options that taste similar but don't inflame, right?
Yes.
Yeah, my book, Piece of Cake, The Secret to an Anti-Inflammatory Diet. The first part is all about how to swap out these top 6 inflammatory foods. So for example, processed sugar, there's over 50 names of processed sugar, which is in that book. And you can find natural sugars such as pure maple syrup, unrefined coconut sugar, raw honey, or sweeteners like stevia and monk fruit, which aren't sugars, but they're naturally derived sweeteners. And you can have literally anything you can imagine. I mean, you see, there's a cake on my anti-inflammatory cookbook, right? Yeah. You can create cakes, you can create cookies and bars and muffins and breads and all kinds of stuff using these natural sweeteners. Mm-hmm. Because processed sugar is the number one most inflammatory thing, most inflammatory food out there. When you remove processed sugar, Marissa, out of your diet, when you really become a renegade researcher, not just the cakes and cupcakes that are obviously have sugar in them, but things when you read the ingredients and you find sauces or yogurts or things that have hidden processed sugar in, and you begin to swap those out, you begin to remove them, by default, that list of the top 5 inflammatory foods, they fall to the wayside. It's like magic. So really the focus is to focus on processed sugar and taking that out.
Okay. So what I think I heard you say was if you find the culprit of the processed sugar, usually their cousins are the rest of the things on the list. Is that what you say? Okay. So you can remove the whole family by just focusing in on the processed sugar. So let's go again, researcher, you said it won't say processed sugar on the ingredients. What are the most common names of processed sugar?
Yes. So names like cane sugar, cane juice, any cane type of sugar, anything that ends with syrup, like brown rice syrup, for example, it sounds super healthy, brown rice, but in truth, it's processed sugar. It is really a toxin going into the body.
Got it.
So anything that ends in syrup other than maple syrup is okay. Then you have things such as like beet sugar, which is also highly processed. Anything that ends in like maltodextrin, the TRIN suffix, or sucrose, CROOSE, the ose suffix is also processed sugar.
Got it.
There's
Got it.
Those are the general things to look out for.
Right. And you will have that in your book, Piece of Cake. It's all spelled out in there. And you literally can have your cake and eat it too. Ha ha. I've been waiting to say that.
I almost
right.
I have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah. But then you wouldn't have gotten me, because as soon as I saw a piece of cake, I knew, we were destined, right? So, okay. So that takes care of that part of doing what you can for yourself. And I have to say, with the increases in cancer, increases in autoimmune diseases, increases like just massive increases from our last generation to this generation. What was the one thing that everyone experienced that changed? And processed foods is the winner. I mean, really, it is the winner, because you can't really say, not everybody necessarily experience microwaves or, what they're blaming on, certainly ozone layer and all of that. But truly, the one huge shift, if you think about the generation, we went to TV dinners. I'm dating myself. I didn't, my parents. But, we went from farm-grown, what do they called? Spraying the toxins for all the fields. That's all in this new generation of ours that has, and the fast foods and, instant this and, just grab a bar or whatever it is. All of that, it's kind of weird how we need to get that pointed out to us. It seems like common sense, but common sense is uncommon. So we're going back to the basics, but we're also going back to the basics without losing the delight and the deliciousness of one of life's gifts, what I call food. You can tell I'm a foodie here.
It's so true. And actually, in my book, from page 1820, I have a timeline that goes way back in history to current day, and depicts when processed sugar, the amount of processed sugar being eaten, how it's being more accessible to the general public, and how that correlates with autoimmune, with cancer, with a lot of chronic conditions.
Beautiful, beautiful. So if you've just tuned in and you're wondering why we're talking about cake and cookies and muffins, you are tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa. And my guest today is Jenny Carr. She is the leading expert in anti-inflammatory being reduced by great tasting diet. And sorry, it's not even a diet. Great tasting food that does not contain the 5 culprits of inflammation. So processed, let's see how good I'm going to do here. 5 key things. Okay, test time. Processed sugar, number 1. Oil, like nut oils, right? I remembered that. Dairy. We're going to talk about that a little bit. Cow dairy. And what did I forget? Wheat.
And genetically modified foods.
Okay. So let's go back to dairy. So what's interesting for me is, I know you thought I was Swedish, but I'm actually Chinese. And I didn't even really grow up with milk because many Asians are lactose intolerant or lactase deficient, which is the enzyme that breaks down lactose. So what's wrong with cow milk?
Yeah. So what's really interesting is there's a few things about cow milk that cause an inflammatory response. The first, most fundamentally, is that the protein molecule in cow milk is quite large. And our bodies are not meant to, we don't have the amount of digestive enzymes necessary to digest those large protein molecules, except for at one time in our life, and that's when we're babies. So when we're infants, most people are able to digest those larger protein molecules until the age of 2 or 3. Because if you go back in time, a lot of people would nurse and breastfeed their babies until they were 2 or 3. And so we naturally create more digestive enzymes at that younger age. And then the digestive enzymes start to go away and we can no longer break down those large protein molecules. The reason I say cow dairy is because sheep and goat dairy actually has a small protein molecule.
Interesting.
So we can break that down more easily, and it can be a really excellent swap for a lot of people. And again, it can be individualized. Some people don't do lactose at all. But for those who can do lactose but just need help breaking down the protein molecule, goat and sheep dairy is an excellent option.
Got it. What's interesting too is you're triggering a memory that, the food pyramid and all of the BS, the belief systems that we grew up with. Did you know that the actual board of, the government committee that put this stuff out, they were all interested members of the industry. So you had the cow a representative on there, with the got milk and the wheat, the farmers, whatever. So it really is an interesting, what BS have we been fed, that has contributed to our issues?
Yeah.
Right? I love the movies. If you haven't seen them, Food Inc. is a really good one. Fork Over Knife. I have a daughter that's vegan, so this was all required watching and reading. But it's just I am not a tree hugger, and I'm not a vegan. But I do know that we have to really examine and re-examine everything that we've been taught, especially with the level of disease that we have in our bodies right now. Yeah.
And it's, our grandmother's bread is not the wheat that our grandmother used to make bread however many years ago. That's a totally different food than the wheat that we have access to now, because it's so genetically modified, because it's so highly processed. And that's what's causing harm. So we say, well, my family grew up eating bread, or I used to always be able to eat these things. Why is it changing now? It's because the foods that we ate years ago are no longer the same foods. And that's why with kids, we're seeing a massive rise in autoimmune conditions and diabetes and
autism
disorders, autism, sensory condition, ADD, ADHD, anxiety, depression. All of this is on the rise with our children. We were just talking documentaries, and there's a movie called Fed Up that Katie Couric produced and directed. And she quoted that it's the first time in history that the youngest generation is predicted not to outlive their parents. Ooh. When I heard that lit a fire underneath me, because I've got babies and there's no way in heck I'm going to
be grieving your babies. Yeah. That's wow. That's I just got a chill on that one. I'll be honest, when I first heard anti-GMO and, war against the GMO and how could they do that, I was like, oh, come on, let's not go overboard here, let's not. And then when I heard that what genetically modified meant was taking grain or seeds that normally would just grow into something, and you could regrow things in the course of nature, and that's what it's supposed to do, that the modification is that you have to buy seeds from them because you won't get more seeds from what's growing. I went, wait a minute. That's wrong. Like you're basically strangling the farmer, like forcing farmers to only buy and have to buy because these, the thing that I thought was so cool, seedless watermelons. When you actually look at the fact that it's a damaged watermelon. Yeah. A watermelon that doesn't have a seed is a damaged watermelon. It's not natural. What, is it that big of a deal to spit out a seed? Come on. Yeah. And so I've gone my own, extreme. Yeah, I'm back in balance. Yes, there's a certain amount of, oh, well, that was smart, or that was, ingenious or creative or a problem solving. But there's so many other ways to problem solve that you don't have to modify. And then the side effect of the modification is what we don't talk about or what we don't pay attention to. So sorry.
I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to share this while we're on
please,
the topic.
please. I'm sorry. It's I'm interviewing you and I'm getting a little too excited here.
I love it. So here's the deal, you guys. GMOs cause leaky gut in our body. So what happens is when we eat food, our body scans the DNA makeup of the food that we're putting into our mouth. If it is not DNA that it can recognize as food, as nourishment, red sirens go off, right? And the immune system starts to become overactive, and we get a lot of inflammation in the body because the body's like, oh, there's an invader. As it makes its way down into the gut, the survival mechanism that our body does is actually creates permeable holes in the gut lining to push out this food that the body does not recognize.
Wow.
It's DNA.
Wow.
Those permeable holes, the problem is it pushes the GMO foods out, but it also pushes out the blueberries and the nuts and the healthy foods that we're eating. And that causes two things: systemic toxicity in the body, because you can imagine all this food is now pushed out into the body systemically and rotting. So that causes a lot of systemic toxicity, and it causes food allergies for the blueberries and the nuts that you ate, because the body's now saying they're toxic, because that's how it's experiencing it. So that's how we get a lot of food allergies. Leaky gut is linked to almost every autoimmune condition. So when they say you can heal autoimmune and that the immune system starts in the gut, often it's healing the gut lining because of these GMO foods.
If you're listening, you cannot have a symptom and not try to heal yourself through diet before going to the doctor to get a pill. Please. Jenny Carr, come back and tell me a little bit more, especially about your newest book, A Healthy Eating Kid.
Awesome. Yeah.
Clean Eating Kid.
The Clean Eating Kid. Yes. Healthy Eating Kid. Clean Eating Kid. So here's one thing I want to mention is that inflammation goes to the areas that you are most susceptible to in your body.
Okay.
So for each and every person, that is unique. For some people, they're susceptible, they have genetic predispositions. Some people have overuse in the body. Some people just have, I don't like to say the word weaker, but areas in the body where the inflammation can target more easily. And so the key in knowing, like if you're listening and you're thinking, I don't know if inflammation's affecting me or not, ask yourself, do a scan from the top of your head to the tips of your toes. And if you had a magic wand and you could experience vibrant health, would you have more energy? Would there be any chronic symptom that you experience which you'd want to go away? The key word is chronic. And if the answer is yes, then inflammation is impacting you.
Okay.
And while there's a number of things that affect you from an inflammatory standpoint, diet is usually number one.
Okay. So constant infections, whether it's urinary tract infections to ear infections to throat infections to hair loss. Yep. To shingles, which is hugely on the rise. Whether it's is HPV also an inflammation, or is that a virus?
So it's a virus, but the thing is that we all have viruses, we all have bacteria in our body.
Yeah.
Whether or not they become active is dependent often on the level of inflammation in our body. So if we remove the inflammation, the virus becomes inactive. Got it.
Okay. So what else did I miss on those common things of?
Digestive disorders are really common. Bloating, inability to digest foods, constipation, headaches, chronic headaches, skin conditions. So if you have chronic acne, eczema, psoriasis, all of those are super common. Joint arthritis, psoriatic arthritis, Lyme disease, lupus. I mean, any autoimmune condition, MS, all of the autoimmune conditions, the foundation is inflammation. And like we mentioned, and this is where the inspiration for my next book, The Clean Eating Kid, comes from, the behavioral, mental, that's my son, Tosh, the behavioral, mental, and emotional conditions that we are experiencing. Oh, diabetes as well, but the behavioral, mental, and emotional conditions.
Autism, all ADHD. I mean, it totally explains why this is such a huge explosion. We went from just like depression, chronic depression. When I was in school, in my undergrad in psychology, it was 0.02%. It's now 25% of Americans, 1 in 4, are taking antidepressants and anti-anxiety. Come on, folks. What's going on? What's going on? One of the things that's going on is we changed our diet. We went to fast food. We went to processed food. We went to processed sugar. The amount of processed sugar, I can't remember which movie it was. I was shocked at just how much, like they said, 55,000 items on our shelves in the grocery store. All 55,000 have processed sugar, cane sugar. Every single one of them. It's like, what? Right. Like even salty foods, even things that you can't even imagine. So this is definitely a wake-up call.
We have spent so many years creating a norm out of taking medicine, taking ibuprofen and aspirin if we don't feel good, giving our kids medicine if they can't focus, taking Abysmal if our stomach hurts. We have created a norm out of this. And it's not to say that there's not a time and place for medicine, but when we have a chronic condition, what if instead we just changed our diet? We can still eat, again, pizzas and cookies and lasagna and amazing foods that taste good so no one feels deprived. Yeah. We can gain nutrition and, by the way, feel better, heal these chronic symptoms, melt inflammation from the body. Yeah. It is an absolutely profound, and once you get in the rhythm, simple method of eating. So it's actually easier than eating the other way is what I found when it comes to cooking. Even when it comes to buying things in the grocery store, once you know what to eat, it's just so simple. It becomes automatic.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful. It becomes a good habit, right?
Yes.
21 days to create a good habit, 21 days to stop a bad habit. Absolutely. So I love the fact that you took something that was close to you, that was an issue, your own, near death, and you turned it around and you used it to chisel and alchemize you into something that you're helping others for. And for that, I am presenting to you the Dr. Marissa Beneficial Presence on the Planet Award. And I do not give that to every guest, but I think this is going to be a show that I'm going to be promoting because it really does speak to helping ourselves. Problems with healthcare. We won't have problems with healthcare if like 50% of us don't have anything to go to healthcare for, right? So I know that this is part of a planet solution that especially Americans who are spoilt in how we can choose our foods and what we put in our body, absolutely. Any parting other advice on the diet part? And then we got to find a new word for diet too, because I
just call it anti-inflammatory eating because that's what we do.
Okay.
We eat. Right?
Okay.
It's the way of eating. It's just a food spot, a way of eating.
Yeah. Enjoying. Okay, good. The last question I always ask my guests is, who or what are you most grateful for?
Ooh, that is really powerful. And I think that I am most grateful for the person who I've become. I've come out of a really dark hole. During my near-death experience, and it felt like everything in my life was falling apart. So if anyone's listening and they feel the same way, you feel like everything in your life is falling apart, remember that you have two choices: to keep acting the same way or thinking the same thoughts, or to make some sort of change. And simply by adopting this way of eating or adopting a meditation, just do some little thing differently, so that you can begin to pivot. You can begin to climb yourself out of that hole. And it has been an unbelievable transformation of shame, embarrassment, sickness, like failure to here I am helping thousands of people, and there could be no greater gift than that.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Jenny Carr.
Thank you, Dr. Marissa. I am truly.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. If you would like to hear the full interview, it is available for free on my free subscribe YouTube channel, so you can enjoy that and so much more. And that is a wrap for show number 579. I hope you come back tomorrow morning at 8 for more hope and happiness. This is Dr. Marissa reporting live from her loving room, reminding you that it's all about balance, peace in, peace out, world peace through inner peace. And as usual, have the best day ever.